Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Before we get started with today's episode, I would like to thank today's sponsor, and that is Ether Diamonds, the world's most sustainable diamonds and the only diamonds that are actually good for the planet. Ether creates the world's first positive impact diamonds made from air through a process that removes harmful air pollution, captures the carbon from it, and retasks the carbon to a higher purpose in their one-of-a-kind diamonds. These are 100% real diamonds with real impact. In fact, every carat of Ether diamonds offsets your personal carbon footprint for over a year. They're some of the highest quality diamonds you could buy and certified by IGI, the world's largest independent laboratory for testing and grading gemstones and fine jewelry. Now you're no longer stuck having to choose between mined and regular lab-grown diamonds, both of which harm the environment. Ether offers the only truly sustainable diamonds on the market, requiring no ethical or environmental trade-offs. They're the only guilt-free diamonds available in the world. To learn more about these revolutionary diamonds from air, visit their website at etherdiamonds.com. That's ether spelled with an AE. And follow them on social media at Ether Diamonds. AETHERDIAMONDS at Ether Diamonds. All right, and now let's go on to the show. In each person's lifetime, there will be a series of waves of rock bottom events. These times are when your identity needs a reboot. These are the sacred and historic times that offer you a chance to reinvent and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I hope that your life is always blessed and that you will never need a guide. However, if you need help, accountability, community, and connection, along with a rock-solid reboot plan, then my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, will be like having me by your side. It is now available on Audible, Amazon, Kindle, and includes a free mini online course, meditation, plus 11 additional guided application workbooks.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC'S KCAA Radio. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Brian Asingia. He is the author, advisor, and investor, author of Cashless Society 101, a Values to Action Guide to Ethical Leadership and Inclusive Innovation. That was in December 2021. And The Last Digital Frontier, The History and Future of Science and Technology in Africa, July 2019. He's an ex-Wall Street analyst at the New York Stock Exchange, executive coach at New Chip Accelerator. All right, welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you for having me, Sheila.
And I'd like to start off by asking, this show is based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation, and we've had some situations this last couple of years I couldn't even imagine.
Do
And
share. Go on.
I wrote it right before the pandemic happened. Like literally, it was coming out when the pandemic showed up. So right on time, I guess. But I'd like to start off by asking you if you could share with our guests a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a tough situation and how you got back on track.
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, I remember it quite clearly. It was definitely 2014, uh, warm summer evening when we thought it was the day we were going to be celebrating closing our investment round.
Mm.
So we had been talking to this angel investor, for a whole year, just meeting month after month over dinners and really just getting to know them as a person, as an investor, and every other thing had gone well up until that point, including introducing the legal team so they could talk to each other. But I think on the actual day of signing, at arriving at his house, because again, we thought like, oh, he's inviting us to his house. He just wants to keep it very personal again. Turns out he ended up having a lot more questions than he has ever had. And we just kind of knew, okay, this is not happening today. We're not closing this round. And the challenge there was, we had already sort of interviewed lots of candidates that we were going to hire for specific positions, from marketing to other sort of tech jobs. And essentially the first, line of business was just kind of telling those people, we really wanted you, we wanted to hire you, but that's not going to happen in the short term. And that was challenging. I think it took me about another 3 days of just not even thinking about business, just kind of like refocusing. But what I realized though was, this is how we kind of bounced back, was that, the investor might have had his reasons for delaying.
Right.
Those were his reasons. It wasn't what our customers were telling us, what our partners were telling us. And so we decided that moving forward, we would focus absolutely on the customers and not on the investors.
Yes.
And by doing that change, both in terms of just the focus, the energy, the strategy, we actually have managed to thrive and enroll new partnerships. Because at that point we needed funding to build the platform. A couple of years later, we've built the platform. We're in over 1,600 cities, over 151 countries. And I think that sometimes if you need money to do something, figure out another way you can do that same thing. Can you partner with somebody else? Can you use technology to do it? And so it was a setback, but it also allowed ourselves to say, is this an idea that can survive without this funding? And if it can, then that's a much better idea. And we had to go test that hypothesis again.
Wow. That's wonderful and exciting to think that you were able to bounce back. And actually, sometimes when a client doesn't work out or something in life doesn't work out, it really is a gift in disguise, because now you're all over the place.
Yeah.
You built this big company. So it is a huge shift. And that letting go, you had those 3 days where you just had to
yeah. Because often you're building everything around this client or this contract you're waiting for. Granted, it's a large contract, but you're almost sidelining other important aspects of your business, of your life, just to prioritize that client or opportunity. And the moment you say, you know what, maybe my business is the important aspect.
Right.
And so how do I nurture all the other important areas of the business, from the clients you already have, the relationships you already have, the networks you already have? You don't have to lose those just to obtain a new opportunity. So and we've been very careful moving forward since then to now almost always make sure we work with people that align with our values and what we're already doing, so we don't feel like we're sacrificing a lot.
Exactly. That is so important for those listening in. If you've had to walk away from a job or a client or a business opportunity because it didn't align, that is okay. It's just fine, right? It kind of rhymes, but
Yeah, right.
it does. If it doesn't align, that's just fine. But move on.
Fine. Well,
Because it does. I remember a group of friends wanted me to invest in something that wasn't aligned for where I'm at. And I just didn't feel guided to do it. And they said, "Oh, we're going to make millions." And I said, "Well, great. I'll celebrate with you. I'll clap for you, but it's not, it just doesn't feel right." It doesn't resonate. I'm a mom. It doesn't align. It doesn't represent me as a mom to my kids and that are now grown, but still it's a representation. Whatever we do, if we put our name next to somebody else's name, if it doesn't align, we got to go. And so then that whole investment thing, everybody lost all their money.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm listening to that guided voice.
The inner gut is still as powerful. That
Yes.
instinct that, your experience is worth something. And sometimes I think that's another important lesson I've had to learn. I used to delegate a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not a good speaker. Maybe you should go speak for us. Oh, I'm not a great networker. Maybe you should go at this conference for us. Until one day somebody told me, I think you're more passionate about this than any of us.
Yeah.
And you seem to always tell us what we should say. Why don't you just go do it all?
Mm-hmm.
It took somebody else that I had almost trusted to say, no, I think you should be the one doing this.
Yeah.
And that released me from that fear of just being the representative of the company, being the face of the company, because it is a responsibility. But once I embraced that role, I've just had to learn and grow, obviously, get better at speaking, get on podcasts like this, on other interviews. But you realize that as you're investing in yourself and growing, the company also benefits because you're taking your role and opportunity much more seriously than before when you were making excuses for not doing certain things.
Yes. And, it's public speaking and getting in front of people and all that being the person behind a brand, that's a big thing. And not everybody loves that. So, so it's something you have to step out of the comfort zone a little bit. But then when you're just able to be real, it's easy. And people, I feel like clients, people, they feel the energy. If someone's not really invested in business or, okay, I'm getting paid to do this and then I got to clock out at this time, they're not going to present the same way that you do.
Yeah.
And that's the difference that's so important. So we talked a lot already about resourcefulness. And one of my favorite mentors on the planet, Tony Robbins, says resourcefulness is more powerful than anything. So literally, resourcefulness is something that's a gift. It's when you're hungry that you find the food, you find the opportunities when you're resourceful. And it doesn't have to always be the way the book says. Just buy the book.
There is no roadmap, perfect roadmap for your idea.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why your idea needs you, because you add a certain element that nobody else can add to it. And so you add that extra layer of improvisation and creativity and absolutely.
Yes.
Resourcefulness. That comes in handy.
So now how does creativity meet this business with, you were working in the stock market and that's very analytical. How did that show up?
So I used to joke that working on Wall Street was my mini MBA. I've since done an MBA, but I felt like, to me, that was the MBA. It was better than the MBA because, you got to do an MBA to network, to learn to run businesses. But what better way than to learn from the people who are running these companies? And the one thing I took away from it more than anything was the longevity. So businesses exist to thrive ideally in perpetuity. So being able to see 50-year-old companies, 100-year companies celebrate those anniversaries, it made me think, wow, wouldn't it be nice 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now to say, I was part of a team that created X company. And so it made me stop chasing things that already were to go back to creating. And if you look at entrepreneurship, I think now there's more and more women entrepreneurs. A lot of people starting businesses that are women. A lot of people starting businesses that are people of color, and that's great. I grew up in Uganda in East Africa, and I mean business was frowned upon as an option in Uganda. So you got to do doctor, engineer, all these much more predictable routes. And so it was very hard to even aspire to be a business person because socially it wasn't supported.
Yes.
But I think being in an environment where that was actually celebrated really gave me what I call the psychological confidence that I needed to then creatively experiment, to say, you know what, let me go start a company.
Yeah.
And 5, 10, 20 years, that brand will be worth something.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you're investing in it. You're putting in a little bit every day. It's got to add up to something. And I think that's really where it is. So for me, the creativity comes in when you say, I may not have XYZ. I may not have this network. I may not have this much money. But what is it that I can do differently? What is it that I can bring to the table? And so for me, it's that knowledge of knowing, I call it knowing the promised land. I know how to look like a big company. I know how to behave, how to do regulatory compliance, all these important things. But let's take a step back and acknowledge that we're starting.
Yeah.
That we're new. Why are we all here? Why are we forming this company? Why are we partnering with you? So by focusing on those somewhat, even sometimes non-technical questions, you can actually allow people, especially when I advise other businesses, I often want to go back to, why don't you tell me why you bought this company? Somebody bought a yoga studio and they're trying to grow it. Why did you even buy it? Well, I always wanted to do yoga.
Yeah.
This is my way of bringing it to more people. That is powerful. That is your drive. Let's tap into that, right? It's not about the numbers. Making money is great. But as we've seen with COVID, what gets you through those tough times is your drive and why you're serving the people you're serving.
Right. Definitely. That's beautiful. What a story. And it is something that's, when you're breaking into something that's different or new for you or whatever, that's hard. I know that my aunt was actually, Thelma, she was actually the first lady on the stock exchange.
Wow.
She worked there, and she's passed away now, but must have.
Oh, that's.
She was, and she had to fit in with the guys, and it was a big deal. And I came from that kind of a family where all the women were very powerful and ran their own businesses and did things, and they were very feminine. They didn't lose their feminine, but they were very much involved with business. And so for me, that was normal. It was,
And it's very, very important.
yes.
Those role models, to see those people in your life. Because then it makes you not think it's only you. You don't feel alone anymore, because it's a lonely journey, this business journey.
Exactly. I mean, my best lesson was really, I was probably 5 years old, and my grandmother, who's now, she was born in 1908, so whatever that is, she and all her friends her age, they would get together for tea, and it was all these women, and they were from all over, because we're in Los Angeles, so from all over they would show up. So very diverse group of women, and they had their stories, and they were these stoic, incredible women that got through things like the Depression. Like that's how old they were. They got through these stories. One lady literally lost her family in a concentration camp, and she was our neighbor, Mrs. Myers. So it's one of those things that I heard these stories and I thought, oh my gosh. At 5, my thought was, I'm going to have an adventure too. And it was part of, we all have an adventure, a story to tell. Yeah. And it gave me a lot of resilience. I stayed friends with those ladies. Some of them, actually a couple of them, lived in my home when they were older and didn't have relatives. They were like my extended family, really. And so They were so
What
important.
would you say? I know you're the one supposed to be asking me, but I can't help but ask.
Yes.
What are some of the memories, advice, just things that, till this day you kind of think, oh wow, geez, that's what grandma would do or would say.
Oh,
Bits
yes.
and pieces that you kind of picked from those experiences.
Oh, they would tell me things like, you can't always be close friends with people that you lead. You have to have a certain level of distance. Or with your children, you can't be buddy buddy with your children. And I thought, well, why not? But they're right. There's a certain level of professionalism if you want your team to follow you, or with your children. You have to have a time where you have to have a certain level of, I can't be your best friend right now. I've got to be your mom. And so that was really important. And when they first kind of really told me that, I was about 18 years old. And I thought, why? I love everybody. Why can't I just be best friends with everybody on the planet? And so
Yeah,
I was kind of bummed out. But it does, I had to lead a lot of businesses and teams. And I was like, oh, okay, I can't go after with them. I can't go visit with them.
yeah, you can't. Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
the
it's a little bit.
familiarity does breed contempt, or you tend to know more than you should know,
Mm,
right? So,
mhm.
so
Yeah,
sometimes you don't need to know
right.
things that unless they willingly share.
Hmm.
Maybe you don't want to know all about their dating life and all
Right.
about, unless they want you to know, and then you can be a
Exactly.
supportive boss. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was the lesson that I made me sad, but it was kind of true. And so that was a big one that stuck with me. And how about you
Sure.
through
Um,
your journey?
yeah, I think for me, when I think of role models, I definitely, I think there's a African billionaire called Tony Mello that I really, really admire, and because for me, like growing up again,
Mm,
didn't think much of business, didn't think much later on, like you could be a billionaire just doing business in Africa. And so I've been really inspired over the last few years by people like him or Jack Ma of Alibaba from China, like just people making it from these emerging markets
yeah.
to really come and say, hey, like there's business going on all around the world.
Mhm.
It's not just in one location. It's not just in one place. Um, People are actually creating, solutions in their communities and making money from it. And I think that's the power of the internet. That's the power of just smart people coming together to build great things. So when I think of um, when I think of like just things that I remember the most, it's simple things like that the resilience we were talking about, you
Yes.
know, knowing I think Jack Ma really says it well. And of course there's other people like Jack Welch and Peter Drucker that I admire on leadership, but he's for Jack Ma what sets him apart I think was he's been able to split your whole life. When you're 10, you should be learning. When you're 10 to 20, you should focus on like some kind of certification, kind of, get that degree. 20 to 30, go get that professional experience. 30 to 40, maybe you should be building something. And then
Mm-hmm.
40 to 50, maybe you're now enjoying the fruits of whatever you built 10 years ago. So it actually helps have some kind of visual timeline.
Right.
And,
Right.
and again, you can always, it's never too late to start and it's
Yes.
never too early. But at least it helps you kind of see that it's not overnight success, as
Mm,
we're led to believe, that there can be a season for learning, a season for networking, a season for building, and a
yes.
season for enjoying some quality family time, which I'm
Mhm.
learning to work on that aspect now. But I think that helps add like a human element to business and innovation in general,
Mhm.
so that it's not just the degree, but
Right.
you can apply it to your life and map out where you are on that journey and what you can contribute. Yeah.
Yes, that's so true. And I have these six children. I adopted three of my own. So I've got this huge family, very beautiful, incredible kids, and they're all grown now. And I have a couple home doing their college. They're barely actually at a university in person again this year, only part time, and the rest of the time still from home. And it's something that is so important to enjoy that time, but to really take it serious. I know that I used to teach also years ago in their school. I wanted them to be at this diverse school. So I did Montessori teaching and Waldorf
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. And what I realize is some parents overgive in a way that hurts the children. And so it's there's this balance. So all my kids have part-time jobs and experience, and they are getting experience in the industry they're getting their degree in. So now they actually are going to have a better opportunity of getting a job
Mm-hmm.
because they have the experience as well as the school, and they don't have a lot of time to go party because they're busy working, and that kind of works out too. So
Work can be a party. Yeah.
yes, so that's it. In fact, one of my daughters said, "Mom, I've got to go get another job because I can't take this." When we had the lockdowns, she was like, "I'm so bored, I can't take it. I just want to go to work to meet people and have fun." And
Yeah.
so it's how we look at it. Is work fun, or is it a job that, okay, and then I got to clock out? And there's people like that. So it's and that's for business too. There's work when you start your own business, and I know you know this, Brian. You get to roll your sleeves up and do
Yeah.
all the
All
work.
kinds of things. Yeah.
Yes. All the work. When everybody else is on vacation, you do the work. When no matter what it is, you get to be.
You have to know when things might go wrong so
Yeah,
they don't go wrong, right?
that's it. That's
Uh,
it.
yeah.
What advice do you have for people that are looking to start a side business or a business right now, in this interesting time?
Yeah, I think honestly that there's never been a better time to start a business than now. And my philosophy right now is that America is the land of business. It runs on business. So the faster you can learn the intricacies of businesses, incorporating taxes, all these other things, just learn. And when you're ready, do. So first step, find the knowledge. Just learn. There's local chambers of commerce. A lot of cities nowadays and states are very supportive, lots of programs.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people that are doing business. Ask your local grocery store, ask your local, how are they doing it? You'll
Right.
be surprised the things you can learn from the people around us because they're already doing it, right? So I
Yes.
would say the first step would be the learning, but the second would be when we talked about that resilience, pick something that you're passionate about. And I know passion, people say, well, passion doesn't pay the bills. Well, it does because it motivates you to
Right.
go learn. It
Yeah.
motivates you to pick up that phone when you couldn't. You know, uh, it motivates you to motivate your employees because they can see that energy in you. Like, why should they join your company? Why should they be part of your team? So you already have to be excited about it. And so, I don't think of passion as like a hobby. I think of passion as like a drive of like, this is my little contribution to the world
Right.
because I want to help my neighbor do X. I want to help my employees do this better. So you're solving a problem, but it better be fun. There better
Right.
be a good way for you to get us excited about that solution you're providing, so we can all join you on that journey. Because guess what? We got a million other options, including sitting around and watching YouTube all day.
Oh my.
So
Yes.
why should we support your idea? Why should we join you, right? And passion has a way to do with that. And my last tip would be invest in yourself. Like this conversation we're having, I love these kind of conversations. I mean, in New York, you're always networking because you just meet so many talented people in the subway, in cafes, in restaurants. So I miss, like, obviously we're kind of open right now, but not the usual New York when it's at capacity. So being able to just be around, basically surround yourself with people who are where you want to be. There's
Yes.
no better way to learn. Like, if you want to be an actor, hang around actors. You want to be a journalist, hang around journalists, at least weekly, monthly. It just rubs off. It just rubs off. And there's no, basically don't dream in your bedroom, even though that's what we're living into. Come join Sheila and Assinja's online community. we'll be your buddies online. Let's hang out.
Right.
Because when you're around similar minds that are doing the things, then you can ask those questions comfortably.
Mm.
Build those relationships with them. All of a sudden, it's no longer a distant thing, a challenging thing. You can actually have your questions answered and actually, build that business. So,
Excellent.
plan, network, and invest in yourself.
Yes, yes. And Tony Robbins says we're the direct reflection of our peer group.
Mhm.
And there's a time in life. I think of my grown adult children now that are in their early 20s, and I think of the situation where sometimes we have to leave a group of friends that may not be aligned. It's that same thing we went back to talking about alignment, working with clients or in business to make sure it's aligned with our core values, life purpose, and vision. And that goes for friends and even family to a certain extent. You've got to make sure that it's aligned with what you're doing, or keep a safe distance if you need to, when you can handle it, if it's a family or whatever. And I think that's so important, or else it could pull you down. It could
Can
change
pull you
your
down.
life.
It can
Yes.
pull you down, or you can be stagnant in the sense that you're not actually progressing because you need that pull. You need the push, but you also need the pull.
Oh, yes.
Somebody inspiring you that you're then saying, "Oh, that's where I want to be." And so, personally, every year I challenge myself to some kind of goal. Um, and the last 2 years has been writing a book every year. I think
Nice.
I'm gonna switch back to science fiction after I'm done with this nonfiction. But I might get back into languages or hiking or something
Mhm.
that can ultimately, what it does is also brings around a new community. So now I know writers. I'm part of a writing program. I know writers. I've met you because I wrote this book and I wanted to talk to people. So having these kind of passions or hobbies that are still related to your goals can actually help you tap into these new networks that can later on be very rewarding to your business. But they happened organically because you were doing something you liked.
Very true. There's nothing better than being in the right room when you have people that are pushing you. They will kick you, they will pull you, they will push you because they know you're not at 100%. But at the same time, they'll help you up when you're down. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a beautiful group. And then the goal with that is to go and help others
Absolutely.
as well. So that's a beautiful thing. And you feel home. You feel like, okay, now we can really play in this game of life together because we have compatible people on the team
Yeah.
or whatever, for business building or networking or whatever. And you can talk and have these great conversations, and it's a beautiful thing. And I can't really talk about Netflix shows, but
Yeah,
talk
and
about things.
yeah, there's some good ones out there that I still talk about documentaries and things like that. But I hear you. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really it. That I feel like that's where I am too. I mean, I've been kicked out of dinner parties because I'm always talking business, and I go, but I was sitting next to somebody that also
yeah,
likes business, so we just ended up talking. Like,
exactly.
and there's no shame in that. They can talk about the weather, and we're just talking about different things. And
Mhm.
why not? If
Yes.
you both want to talk about it. I'm not going to talk to you if you don't want to listen, but if we're having an exchange, that's beautiful.
Yes, definitely. Now, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your book. You have two books that
Yeah.
were mentioned. So I don't know, maybe you can start sharing about one and then the other,
Yeah.
and the title again, and then maybe your favorite chapter or point
Sure.
in the book.
Yeah, I'll do it. So the two books for those listening or viewing is The Last Digital Frontier. It's really a book about innovation in emerging markets, but mainly using Africa as a case study.
Mhm.
And then Cashless Society 101 um, looks at ethical leadership or inclusive innovation in terms of what does it mean to do the right thing in business
Mm,
or in leadership.
nice.
Because doing the right thing doesn't necessarily mean doing what's legal. There's a lot of legal things that are not ethical.
Right.
Look at what's going on in Texas right now. I won't go into details. Those who don't know. Legal and ethical are totally different things. And I've been fascinated with this conversation ever since I was a child. Because again, I grew up in Uganda, and there's corruption is common, and so it's normal to be corrupt. It's accepted socially, but is it the right thing to do? Right. And so I've always wanted to answer these kind of questions. And I think when it comes now to technology, which is really the bigger issue that I tackle in cashless society, is, are we even aware of the technologies we're building now, what they're capable of doing, the biases within them, data privacy violations, security concerns, and who is monitoring and regulating them, if anything? Do we just trust that Google has our best interest? No.
I know.
And if not, what's the best way forward? What can government do? What can you do? What can I do? What can business people do? So that it's not a build and forget until we wake up one day and the machines have taken over. But it's like we are constantly in conversation especially with the people building and creating these technologies.
Yes.
So it's really, my second book is really more about having that conversation. What kind of technologies would be useful? For a very quick example, and I might end on this note, that I like to use is Google now supports like local languages. If you're in India, you can use Hindi and you don't need to know English to use Google services. Or if you use, you can talk to probably Alexa or Siri in Spanish and they might understand you now. So, think about that. Do I have to learn a new language to use a technology, or can I use it with what I already know? That's a big barrier of access that can allow people to access technology where they are. And there's other things like digital payments and mobile money and other automation, lots of jobs being lost to machines. But I think at the core, it comes down to doing the right thing and helping move society forward as the foundation of innovation.
That sounds good. Yes, I have friends that got this clear phone, I think they call it, because they don't want to be followed or listened to or tracked. And I'm like, I think they still track you anyway. I said, I'm not going to do that because I have a show. I talk about my private stuff all the time.
Right.
I'm on the front lawn for everyone to see, no problem.
Right.
So it's not something I'm worried about, but you take consideration and use the blocking and the safety thing if anything change.
As much as you can,
Yeah, and then I think if you're living your life and you're in integrity and you're in alignment, then you really don't have anything to worry about anyway, in the respect that as long as you're following the law.
But that's an interesting that's one thing that I actually address in the book, and it's really, people like to say, oh, I have nothing to hide. It's not about having something to hide. It's kind of like that freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
Right.
Freedom of religion also applies to people who don't believe in religion.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so once you lose one, then you can't have the other, right? And so I think it's the same. It's like, it's not about you saying I don't have anything to hide, therefore I don't mind. It's like, maybe even the people who have something to hide have something, rightfully so. And sometimes, family member gets killed in a car accident. Do we really want to see all their images online, or do we want to protect the privacy of that? So sometimes it's the simple things, and sometimes it's the bigger things where there's clearly something going on that people are hiding. But I think once you blur those lines, then it's hard to even have those kind of protections that you might need someday. And then the last piece of that, the other danger of that is machines are getting better at connecting the dots. So you may tell me one thing, and you tell your nephew another thing, and you tell your auntie another thing. Well, since the machine is listening to all three,
know more about it.
It will know more about you than any of us know. And so it's actually gonna either recommend something to you. We know your car is gonna crash next week anyway because your mechanic didn't tell you, but he definitely said it's not working. So do you want a discount on this new car? It's like somebody is making a decision for you, or trying to influence your decision because they have more information about your world or your life than you do. and that can be something worth evaluating.
Definitely. That makes sense. And there's a lot of things that are blurring the lines right now, obviously, and technology, social media, censoring, people getting, they always give you this, okay, you said the wrong thing or whatever, Facebook blocked you.
Warning, yeah.
Our president got banned, Trump, but, however you voted.
Yeah.
But, it's like, really, somebody in a political office, it doesn't matter. They got blocked. Okay.
Right. And that was an interesting precedent. Yeah.
So who's really in control here? The social media is more in control than, all these different sites are more in control than our government.
In a way, because if we go back to the beginning, they are businesses, and businesses can do certain things,
right,
that they choose to do as a business. So that's why sometimes I it's probably true, though. I might have to defend it someday in court. Don't quote me on it yet. But my new catchphrase is in America, businesses have more rights than individuals. And I think more and more it's becoming true, So when you set up a business, as long as you're running it legally, it can actually do more things and protect your assets and and do more of those things than you would as an individual. Because if you get sued as an individual, let's face it, like sometimes that's just scary,
Right.
But a business can get sued and you can still go on with your life, right? So there's often that layer of flexibility that a business can have because it just has certain protections from the government.
Yes. Now, I do talk a little bit about that in some other shows, and that's something that's so important. I opened my first gift store, 5,000 square feet, when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And then I ended up buying 4 more buildings that were really big for stores and running them for 17 years. And through that experience, it was business credit. So if you're starting a business right now, even a small side gig, and you're starting to make some profit, start to build your business credit. Get an LLC, get an S Corp, look into that, talk to the Small Business Association where you are and get help, because when the people that fund it through their house, maybe they take a home equity or they, are paying their own personal money into the business. That is really dangerous, because then if your family needs that money for something important, you don't have it because it went into the business. So the money can come from this business. And I'm 23. By the time I was 24, I could go in and buy a car with 0 interest with a credit. I could buy the buildings I bought. I purchased them with the business credit and the earnings from the store, and then did the sweat equity and paid it down quickly, that kind of thing. But that's the secret, is this business credit that people don't.
Yeah, it can do its own thing. It can do, the business can actually do this. Because I think that you hit something really well. A lot of people go, well, you want to separate business and personal. Yeah, rightfully so, which is why the business should also receive the same amount of attention as we do with our personal lives and our personal credit scores and our personal health. What about the business health? Since, granted, people have their life partners, I think your business is like your third partner in a relationship. Right? So it's like, let's also make sure the business gets the attention and support it needs, because it exists for a reason. And so some of the frustrations I've had in the past is when people just look at it as something that's optional. Meaning, as long as I'm doing okay, I'm sleeping, then maybe the business is not as important.
No.
It's like, it's not an either or. You can do both. And actually, if both of them are thriving, if you're thriving and the business is thriving, guess what? Everything is great. That's much better than just one of the two thriving. If your personal life is suffering but your business is thriving, it does impact the business, and vice versa. So I think kind of actually prioritizing both and not looking at business as this side thing.
Right.
A lot of people just go, well, you can't just be business. It's like, yes, you can, if you make time for it.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes. And, I do a lot of consulting with people in business and team leaders and this and that. And many times what will happen is they'll show up with the business problems. A lot of times it's team scheduling and working with whatever and managing the team. But then once that's corrected, we go right into, and then the relationship is falling apart.
Right.
However the business looks, it mirrors what's happening at home.
Yeah.
Or not happening at home. Believe it or not, it's really interesting. And so I end up doing the relationship talk and having a husband and wife on the phone. And I'm like, I don't know, this is business consulting, but it happens.
Yeah.
More times than not. So choosing a partner that's aligned with what you're going to do in life and having those discussions early on, or having discussions about priorities and how to manage a home and a business, because a business does take a lot of time. It's like a child or another partner, like you said. It's a full-time
partner.
Yes.
For a while, people were like, how come you're not dating? I'm like, I have a partner already.
Right.
I'm just seeing how that goes first.
Right,
but
right.
It is. And if it works out, it does take care of you.
Yes, it does.
It does take care of you. And, those repeat customers that you can plan the next day. Like, I like consulting for that very reason too. It's like almost end of year again. So it's like, let's start talking about next year. Let's start talking about your plans for next year. And it's like a fascinating sort of process to go through with clients. To know that they're thinking ahead, they're planning ahead, they're addressing the challenges. And I know earlier we were talking about advice for people starting business now. I would say legal and technology.
Right.
Just understand those two things. Different states, different cities have different laws. Understand the laws for your area, and then see how technology can help you do things. Because how are you gonna get paid?
Right.
Are you accepting credit cards? Are people sending you Venmo? Those simple things, if you set them up the right way, you can save yourself a lot of headache. Maybe integrate them with your accounting system. Sounds simple, but I've seen people. I've had some clients just go, "Oh, we can't meet for the next 2 weeks because I'm collecting my receipts for the accountant," or like maybe there's a way you can improve that process so it doesn't take you 2 weeks where you're doing anything else but that. Like that.
It happens every year, and every year tax time is held that it's time to make a change.
Yeah.
Right now.
If every year that's the big problem.
Yes.
Why aren't we doing something about that?
I hired a CPA right away. I think my first year into the business, I had a bunch of men show up in suits. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this like the tax people coming to get me? Maybe I'm going to prison. Did I do it wrong? Because I was trying everything myself. And it turned out to be President Clinton. He spoke in the neighborhood at the college, Glendale Community College. He ate at Rocky Cola Cafe, and he came into our store, and I was like, should I run? I was like, all these people, what am I going to do? And then the president walked in, and I was like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. You have no idea.
What was the name of the store?
It was Merchandisers in Montrose, California. And it was because we had 5,000 square feet. So we had all these beautiful items and different vignettes. And so President Clinton got some Crabtree and Evelyn fragrances from us for men and women. And and that was it. And somewhere there's a picture of him with my daughter. Wow. She was a little one. So that was kind of cool. But the next day I hired a CPA. I was like, oh, okay, I think
I
can't do this. I can't take this stress. So
and there's always things like that in business, right? So when I think of it, I call it this. In business, it's like continuous improvement. You're always improving. You're always learning. Personally, you say lifelong learning because you're always learning something new. But that's the beauty of it. It's like there's always another pressing need for your business.
Right.
That's okay. Fix the one you're working on now, and then go to that next one. And when you're done with that one, trust me, there will be. I call them good problems. There will be another good problem. Because now you have too many customers, because now you have too many orders. That's okay. Now let's find a way to fix that as well. So, sometimes I think people want to they think they will fix it and that's it.
Oh, no.
There will be no new problems. It's like, no.
And laundry. These happen all the time. Like
Yeah.
I just did the dishes. I have to do the dishes again. I have to do the laundry again. I have to do business. I have to build it. And now it's growing. I have to do more. You know, what's interesting is we can rise to the occasion. So I started this show one day a week and now it's 12 hours a week. And now it's syndicated and all this other stuff. And so it's interesting how that happens. I just said yes. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to fit that into my life.
Yeah.
And it just works out. You
It
find
just,
a way. You hire an assistant, you get help. And so it makes a big difference. Now, I'd love for you to share. We're coming to the end of our talking time. So I'd love for you to share again about your books and where people can connect with you to learn more.
yeah. So, Brian Asingia, again, for those listening, thank you for having me, Sheila. The two books that I've written so far are The Last Digital Frontier, and The Last Digital Frontier, again, is really looking at the history and future of science and technology in Africa. What was innovation like pre-colonialism? What was sort of what I call the extractive sort of innovation happening, where resources were just being taken, but not a lot being built locally. And now where we are, we're seeing a lot of young people graduating, going back or staying there and really just building, e-commerce companies, robotics companies. So what does the future look like for Africa? So that's The Last Digital Frontier. People that are into investments and other things, consultants, you would find it like a good read. Or even if you just want to visit, as a tourist, it would be a good read. For Cashless Society 101, which is my second book, it's a values to action guide to ethical leadership and inclusive innovation. And this comes out this December 2021. New Degree Press is the publisher. I'm really excited for that. And again, essentially tries to talk about doing the right thing in business and in leadership. And that's a conversation we need now more than ever. I fundamentally believe, especially college students graduating now, need to be taught about ethics. It's not just enough to teach them about math and computer science and all this. It's like, how do they build things that put other human beings' perspectives in that process, and that's really, people can find me online at Brian Asingia, and the website is also brianasingia.com, BrianAsingia. And I hope people can support the book. You can get an advanced copy right now that I'll autograph, and ship to you anywhere. And also always, up to have conversations and talk to people. So thank you for having me.
All right. Outstanding conversation. Thank you, Brian. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages. If you are just tuning in, this is NBC's Sheila Mack Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today I have a couple of announcements. First, I would like to hear from you. That's right. I would love to hear from you. To be honest, I want to know what your breakthrough is, what your reboot is. How are you reinventing and rebooting your life? What shows would you like to hear more of? What information do you need to help you get back on track this year? And to do that, the best way to connect with me is actually through my new YouTube channel, and that is Sheila Mack Show on YouTube. And there you can see past recordings, and you can also see other information and shares that I have. And I would love for you to share in the comments there what you're needing more of and what you're rebooting this year and how we can help you get back on track. Grab a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. Now available on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. And I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's show, King of the World Podcast. Although it's been 20 years since the events of 9/11, many of us can still remember it like it was yesterday. America and the world has never been the same. From Rafaelian Media, the King of the World podcast series explores the many repercussions of the day for the American Muslim community through the journey of host Shah Jahan Khan a high school senior at the time. Follow his story along the major headlines, as well as hearing directly from folks who might help you understand what the hell happened on that day and in the years that followed. This 7-part series delves into September 11th in a unique and accessible way, covering topics like identity, belonging, mental health, and addiction alongside the related events of the last 20 years, including Islamophobia, the war on terror, surveillance, media representation, and resilience. King of the World, an American Muslim story told by American Muslims.